Hi there, my name's Aaron Wilder, and I curated the exhibition Unstable Language, and it's on artsy.net. I'm joined today by Charles Compo. Thanks, Charles, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I thought we could talk about the issue of gun violence, which is a very prevalent topic in your work. And I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about how and when that topic became important to you to address in your work.
It's hard to say when because, you know, well, I grew up here in New York, so gun violence was really big in New York when I was a child, when I was younger. Of course, it's gone down substantially, but you can't turn around or look in the news or see anything without, somebody going ballistic with a gun somewhere, right? And as Americans, we just love our guns, don't we? And so it's just kind of what it is. Um, I tend to not think too much about what I'm painting,
Hmm.
although sometimes I do make specific paintings about specific events, um, like during the January 6th riots. I
Hmm.
made some paintings about that at the time. This particular painting that is in front of me, I'm not sure if everybody's seeing it. Um, is called, now that's what I call a target-rich environment. Um, the painting itself has evolved. It started as a different painting, and the guy didn't have his mask on yet. And the gun that's in his hand, I didn't paint it. I know that sounds really weird.
Hmm.
It kind of emerged. It kind of showed up in the painting.
Really? Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, it's kind of my process, which
Okay.
is that I do my best to it's almost mediumistic. I start painting, and that painting was painted over like a 3-year period.
Yeah.
So the original painting, which was in a show, did not have the mask. The lion was different. It was originally okay. It was originally called Donald Jr. Takes a Day Off. And the guy behind him with the skull was a caddy. It was supposed to be like a golfing exhibition, you see. But
Okay.
somehow he was shooting big game. So the lion appeared. But then like all of a sudden there was like you remember the childhood book Harold and the Purple Crayon? I
No,
don't
I'm
know.
not familiar.
Okay. But people should go back and look at that's like my style of painting. Harold and the Purple Crayon.
Well, it
That's
sounds
kind of
like you get into this state of flow. Like you start with an idea sometimes, but it really sort of takes on its own life.
That's correct. And what I do is I stare at the paintings a lot and I apply different, you know, mediums, and it's all oil, but I use a lot of different mediums in addition to
Hmm.
that, and structures. And then over time things start to appear. And then of course I also tie those into things that I'm seeing and hearing about and reading, etc.
Got it.
So
You also have this work in the show. There's a shooter down at the school.
right. So this was painted right after the Valdez massacre. Although once again, I didn't exactly start there. I
Hmm.
started by accidentally dropping a pile of gold powder on a canvas that had
Really?
gesso.
Okay. Interesting.
And then I was originally thinking of something else, and then this cow-like shape started to appear. Um, and then, the obvious distressed, the despair
Hmm.
that such a horror that someone could go and murder children is just astounding to me. And I had a house at the time when that happened up in Connecticut, 10 years ago. I lived about 15 minutes away from where that mass shooting was, where they went into the children's school. So to me, it's just, I can't even understand it. I can't wrap my head around it.
Hmm.
And so tragic that people would be so broken. And that in our country, and I'm not here to make some whole big political statement, but it's just that people are so disconnected with the idea that it's so easy for people to have guns and and these types of guns and use them in such violent ways. And that, I don't know, it's astounding to me. It's astounding to me.
Yeah, and it seems like your sort of visual processing of how things are emerging is evident in the layers of your work, in that it develops over time. You said 3 years you work on paintings.
Yeah, I have paintings that I worked on for 20 years, only because I never ever tried to sell a painting. I was just painting for my whole life. I was really a working musician and
Hmm.
doing other things. And I used to just like to paint. And then, about 7 years ago, I started to, kind of get my paintings out there and stuff like that. But so I didn't want to have collect my own paintings. So I used to just paint over the same paintings repeatedly. So
Ah, yes,
I
a lot
mean,
of artists do that.
yeah, so if you were to go back and peel the layers off, there'd be like 10 paintings underneath.
An
Uh,
excavation.
that's right. But also, I'm also fascinated, by the way, with the history of art, and how it impacts us, what it means to us as, you know, a species. And and when I say history of art, I don't mean like what happened in the Renaissance. I mean like, that globally there's all this art that's been discovered that's like 30,000, 40,000 years old. Everybody knows about the cave paintings and stuff like that, but I mean, recently they discovered I forgot where, it's somewhere in Colombia, in the Amazon portion of Colombia, discovered like a painting on a wall that was like 2 miles long or something like that.
Yeah.
And and if you look at all of those paintings and you look at all these things, like the oldest known sculpture that was discovered is the Lion Man. It was like a little sculpture with a head of a man with the head of a lion. And if you look at all those cave paintings, and they're beautifully executed often, what are they painting about? They're painting about animals. They're painting about feelings. They're painting about hunting. They're painting about sex. They're painting about, the afterworld. They're painting about all the same stuff we're painting about, right? I mean, it's the same thing. It's some kind of a, it's some kind of a reflection back of, what we're seeing, how we're seeing the world and how it's impacting us. And so that's how I paint. And that's the same. I paint in that same tradition. So a lot of times animals appear, shapes appear, um, you know, aggression appears, right? Sometimes I do peaceful paintings and other types of paintings. But I live in Midtown. My studio is right in the middle of Midtown Manhattan, where it's quite chaotic downstairs. So a lot of
Yeah.
times I paint things that are going on right downstairs from the studio. So that's kind of my process.
And
Um,
then, so your work is very discursive in that it brings up topical issues, and you've said that you work through a critical lens in your work. I'm wondering if there's been any surprising dialogue that's emerged between you and viewers of your work.
yeah, well, I'm often surprised. How people view what I painted. Like sometimes someone will say, I love that thing, that, rabbit you put in your painting. I'm like, what? There's a rabbit in the painting? It's like, so sometimes people see what they want to see. I feel like it's like a magic mirror. Like you look into the
Right.
painting and you might see different things, depending on what I'm working on. I'm looking around the studio here. It's like, yeah. So I try to interpret the world and my inner world, the what's going on inside of us,
Hmm.
and also connect it with what's going on outside of us, and then put it there. And then as it's growing, and sometimes, by the way, I'm sure the people that are artists and that especially that work in oil know that oil dries like over a really long period. There's some paintings that could take 100 years for something to dry. And as it dries over some period, 2 years, 3 years, it changes.
Well, thank you so much, Charles, for taking your time to join me and speaking about your work. I want to remind everyone that Unstable Language is on Artsy through December 1st.